What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Moon Boy Podcast. This is episode number 17 of the Moon Boy Podcast. You guys can download this on Apple Podcast as well as on Stitcher, and I'm pretty sure it's still actually pending on Google. I could double check on that. You guys can search for us if you want and let us know in the comments below. So before we get started here, make sure that you share this video with your friends and subscribe to both Donovan's channel and my channel, and check out our VIPs in the description of this video. Without further ado, let's get straight into what we're going to talk about in the podcast.
Yeah, I think that overall, everything that we're seeing in crypto is roughly the same as last week. I think that everything's looking really good, though, for me personally. Looking once again at the long-term prospect, we just had the halving recently. All of these are really good correlations towards price expansion, or what I think a lot of people are expecting to see. But with that being said, I think that I've also seen and noticed a sentiment inside the market that's kind of leaning towards still more of like a bearish note, a real indecisive point where
everybody's still trying to short everything.
Yeah, exactly. And so
I noticed that.
It's a little bit different right now. It feels more like genuine disbelief, kind of like what I thought was happening when we were at the New Year support of about 6,400 before the crash. I kind of figured that that was the disbelief phase, but now we're starting to see what I would view like really bullish looking markets. Even if we have a short-term correction back down for a little bit, it really does look bullish for the long term, and you're starting to see more people than, before the crash. They're starting to lose that faith in it, and they're thinking that it's just going to keep going down from here.
Correction? What are you talking about? This shit's about the moon, bro.
Well, yeah, I don't say it's not, but that was the whole point. I think that, short-term correction, 10, 15%, 20%, but even at that,
I kind of feel like we already had it, bro. We were talking about it last week, and then it happened like exactly
the day,
and I feel like it already happened.
Yeah,
bro.
If anybody was managed to actually buy any of that, because it happened so fast. Because that's the thing is, if you don't have buy orders set on exchange, it's really hard to just expect to be able to.
Oh, I didn't get the exact bottom, but I tethered up some and told in my VIP, told people to get out and bought that dip because.
Yep.
Bro, that was a nice dip. 18% like that.
Yeah.
Perfect straight on the support.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we're bullish engulfing a lot on smaller time frames, and gold is actually leading Bitcoin right now in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You guys, Peter Schiff has been going all around on the internet, and let's be honest, everybody in the cryptocurrency community knows that Peter Schiff is a gold maximalist, and I don't have anything against the guy, but gold is doing good right now, and so it might be easy for people to want to take their Bitcoin out and be like, oh, well, gold is more stable or more this and that, the other thing. I think it's smart to have gold, but I want to address this thought because I'm noticing a lot of people wondering if they should put into precious metals because they're scared of digital assets. You guys, the digital cryptocurrency blockchain is more secure, in my opinion, than the manipulated gold markets that we see because of futures. You saw oil the other day. Oil went into the negatives because of manipulation from futures markets. Now, the spot price didn't do that. But, like gold, I think is a great investment. And silver, I think is a great investment. Spot. These futures contracts are sketchy. And so when it comes down to like Bitcoin, I think that having Bitcoin is very important, and one thing that I'm passionate about is I keep way more in Bitcoin than I do in precious metals, bro. Way more, and way more in Bitcoin than I keep in stocks. Why? Because I make the most money on it. And I don't know what you guys are here for, but I'm here to be able to produce revenue, produce wealth for me, my future family, and my community. My group, my YouTube followers, all of those people. And so the most effective way to do that, yes, is with risk management. Yes, diversification is good. Yes, gold is awesome. Yes, silver is freaking awesomer because it's even more, it's way more awesomer because it's undervalued, bro. And when I see that depression chart in silver, I get literally the hairs on the back of my neck go, and I just get excited because I know it's coming in that market. But you guys, if you're thinking in terms of what's going to make you the most money and you're still thinking in terms of risk management, cryptocurrency for me is the way to go. And I diversify into stocks. Yeah, buying silver, buying physical silver is really cool on the internet. I've done it before. But I think that, for me, you already know, most of my money's in Bitcoin right now. I'll keep dollar in my bank and some USDT because I like to be able to buy the dips. But bro, crypto is the way of the future, man.
I feel that. And people always ask me, and they always, ask if they should diversify into precious metals and things like that. And yeah, I think those are great investments, especially, if you're somebody older that has a lot less of a risk tolerance. For me personally, I don't hold any precious metals. I'm not even gonna lie, I don't give a crap, because I'm gonna make way more money off of crypto. This is where I'm gonna make life-changing wealth. I only get so many opportunities of a bubble like this.
You got a little silver though. My
No.
dad.
Oh yeah, I got a silver coin, like an ounce of silver, I think. So gonna get rich off of that. That's my long-term hodl. But overall, I foresee the opportunity lying in crypto. When I take my profits out of crypto, I want to diversify into precious metals. I want to diversify into other things. But overall, my focus is on cryptocurrency, because I know the technology behind this stuff, because this is the thing I've studied for 4 years now at this point. And I understand the fundamentals behind gold and silver and things like that, but because I understand more about crypto, because I know that I'll make more off of those investments, it just doesn't make sense for me to diversify into these old assets that are going to take years to move. And I mean, with gold's been outperforming, and gold's actually leading the market. It's leading Bitcoin and all of that. And that's why I think that overall, as long as you know what's happening with gold, you can kind of show what's going to happen to the rest of the crypto market at that. And so, by investing into Bitcoin, when gold goes up 50%, Bitcoin goes up like 300%. And so that's just something to keep a note of. I'll make more money. Yeah, there is the inherent risk factor that's involved with a volatile asset, but in my opinion, it's more risky not to be holding cryptocurrencies right now than it is to hold anything else. I mean, unless you're holding precious metals, I don't think that there's a safer alternative, because the stock market's riskier than crypto is for me right now, and that's just my own personal belief. And so, for me, it makes more sense to invest in crypto. Just because of the fact, I believe that with what we're seeing with all of the inflation, with what we're seeing inside
Don't you think the inflation would drive everything up, though?
It will. However, what I don't like about stocks is they're just one-dimensional. It's not really anything. Like, cryptocurrency has utility. It can fulfill all of these different tasks, whereas a stock's just basic.
Yeah, but Amazon.com is an extremely fundamentally strong stock.
True, but I'll make way more off of crypto regardless, and so that's why I'm focused on those. I'll make more off of crypto, and I don't have a problem risking it as much, because I foresee these being longer term future investments for me. Whereas
I agree they're more undervalued, but I still think that diversifying into stocks does a lot of good. I mean, Tesla is one that I bought just the other day, and I'm already up in my position. I've been buying oil companies, and I'm up in those positions. I think there's a lot of value in being in both markets.
Right, I do too. For me personally, I know that my focus is on crypto. I know how the cycles work, and because I know more about those, I know more about the cycles, I would rather invest my money into that. That's my point. You're
used to it.
Yeah.
You're okay.
And if anybody wants to invest in the stocks, go for it, because a lot of them are undervalued too. I just know, for me personally, I don't have nearly the interest in that market.
Well, they are slower. They take a little longer to make the gains. Mm-hmm. But for me, the reason I personally do it is the diversification and the fact that I like to be making, sometimes my stocks are going up. Like the other day, my stocks were going up when Bitcoin was correcting.
Right.
And so it feels nice to be able to be making money all the time in multiple different markets and have that. What you said about older people investing in Bitcoin or investing in gold and silver instead, I would argue that they should be the ones investing in Bitcoin, and we should be the ones investing in gold and silver.
That's what I agree 100%. I had
because of the time scale.
I agree. I had a conversation with my buddy's friend the other day, Chad's dad, and all of these arguments that these older people have against Bitcoin is also the exact reason why they should be investing. I don't have enough time. I only have so many years before I retire. It's always, I don't have enough time, which is exactly why, I invest in a Bitcoin because in a year and a half it'll do a 10x. That's the thing I don't understand, is like, with cryptos, it happens so fast. So because the cycle is still...
He's getting into it now though, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he bought Bitcoin last night. I helped him set up a Binance account so he could connect his bank account and just basically deposit straight USD onto his exchange.
He just had a healthy degree of skepticism at the start.
Which everybody does that doesn't understand it. And I understand that 100%, which is smart to diversify. And, just by me saying that I'm just in crypto does not mean that I'm against holding stocks, because I believe cannabis stocks are undervalued. I believe uranium stocks are undervalued. And oil stocks, there's the multitude. They're all fairly undervalued at this point. And I believe that you will make money. It'll be consistent for the most part if you know what you're doing. But for me, I just foresee this cryptocurrency cycle lasting a year and a half. For me, I don't have the issue going all in on crypto because it'll maximize me a higher reward. And so for that, I'm just going a little bit more risk tolerant.
So when you say a year and a half, what do you mean by that?
Year and a half, my time frames for taking profits are at the end of 2021. That's when I think the cycle top will take place. And so for me, it makes more sense for me to hold crypto for a short period of time, make all of that money in crypto, take those profits and re-diversify into something else when I have more of that cushion to work with, per se. Because for me, it makes more sense to diversify into crypto. I'll make more money in the process. It'll happen in a quicker period of time. And then at that point, I'd rather diversify into other stuff. I just foresee the opportunity being so great where we're at in the market cycle that I don't really care to go into too many other things.
So when I think about time frames in cryptocurrency, I think that the cycles have generally repeated over and over and over in the same way. The reason I ask about why you think it's going to be 1.5 years or a year and a half from now is because of the fact that the cycles have gotten longer.
Right.
And I'm curious as to how long this cycle will be because the stock market cycle moves in 8 to 10 year cycles.
Right.
And this cycle, because of how parabolic it will be, it might only be 8 years rather than 10 like the last cycle was before this COVID correction.
Right.
But I think that generally speaking, most everything will be rising in that period of time that the stocks are. So I have a pretty big scope, and maybe there's an 80% correction after 2 years and then another moon cycle in crypto for the next 4 years next to this halving. But I'm curious as to like
why
fully like your reasoning behind 1.5.
The reason why 1.5 is because I subscribe to the theory of the 4-year cycle. This is something Bob Lucas talks a lot about. This was really the person that got me in deeply into cycle analysis over the course of, it was like summer of 2018 I paid for one of his courses. Yeah, and he doesn't believe that the cycle is lengthening. Yes, the first cycle compared to the Bitcoin cycle from 1100 to 20,000, that cycle did lengthen in time. However, we're also comparing apples to oranges with the first cycle when there was less than $1 billion in market cap. So it didn't take very much money to, create these accumulation cycles. And so I think that the first cycle isn't comparable to what we're seeing today. Since 2014, that was the first time we really had enough money to dictate a 4-year cycle. And if you actually measure, if you draw out the 4-year cycles, we followed it identically. There's no difference. So basically the way you go from a 4-year cycle is you measure the 4-year cycle from peak low to peak low. And each low should be 4 years exactly in between each other. If you draw the exact bottom of the two, it was like $150 in Bitcoin in 2015. If you look at the exact bottom, it's right at the new year, heading into 2015. If you draw 4 years from that, let me get the actual chart up here so I can go through and look at the exact.
Yeah, we could drop a link if you screenshot it. We can drop a link to the chart in the description of the podcast.
So it goes 4-year cycle. 2014, 2015 happens right there. 2015 would take us 4 years in advance is 2019, which the start of 2019 was exactly almost the bottom. And that's how a 4-year cycle works, which is why if we have another 4-year cycle, the low of this move happened at $3,200, right? So 4 years in advance from 2019 takes us to 2023. So that's where I believe that we'll have, the next bottom of that cycle, but bear markets in Bitcoin last a year. And so, we peaked in 2018 for 1 year, took us to almost the exact bottom. So 2023, reverse that, a time frame takes us to 2022. I take my profits at the end of 2021, heading into 2022, which would follow the 4-year cycle almost identically.
Okay, I see your argument. Now, first of all, if you want to screenshot this chart or take a screenshot of it, I think, and then send it to me for later, because I'm going to put this in the description of our video.
After the podcast.
Okay, cool, because I'd like people to see what we're talking about from a visual and from a conversational perspective. And my counter argument to this is that, first of all, the first cycle in Bitcoin, I think, is very important. And because all data is important in charting, and I think it does a disservice to ignore the first cycle. The other thing that I want to talk about is the fact that this, for me, cryptocurrency today is the same as buying the internet bubble after 2003. And if you actually go look at these internet bubble stocks, and I'll drop a chart to Amazon, which I'm about to show you. We're chart nerds, you guys.
Oh yeah, it never stopped going up. I agree.
So what's interesting about the Amazon cycle is we have our day and price range. So the first bull market and bear market was about 1,600 days, right? Now look how long this bull market has been since then. 6,700. And so that's why I think crypto's going to move up the same time that all the stocks are moving up. In this 8-year period that the stocks are going up and going parabolic, and we're just printing infinite money and telling everybody that they're going to have free everything for the rest of their life, which is an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And at least until we have enough wealth to do so, which will come after another huge correction.
And I agree with that, and that's a really good perspective that you're bringing up, because that's obviously the alternative, is if we don't follow the 4-year cycle, we'll have an elongated cycle. And so I definitely agree with everything that you're saying. I'd say the only thing that the only other piece of, the other resource that I have, kind of why I've subscribed to the 4-year cycle theory, is just mainly because if you take a look at the stock to flow, that's the only indicator that I really care about with Bitcoin, because if you guys look at the stock to flow model, I can drop a link, or just Google or go on Twitter and just @Plan B. This guy is a really good, yeah, this guy's amazing. He has a stock to flow model indicator, which is like a moving average that can map out Bitcoin's price trajectory to a 95% accuracy. And so obviously we have to see what happens over the next year or so, but he projects Bitcoin's price to be at $100,000 by 2021, which would perfectly coexist with the 4-year cycle theory. And then he foresees Bitcoin's price hitting $1 million by the end of by about first quarter of 2024. And that would also coexist perfectly with the 4-year cycle theory continuing after this. So because there's a 95% accuracy up to the point of his indicator and how it maps out the price of Bitcoin, I think that there's more reasons to believe in the 4-year cycle theory. For me personally, we could have one of those elongated bull runs that last like 8 years like you're saying. However, I believe that this is going to create a bubble like we saw in 2017, and we'll need to have a correction from that bubble. Because I think that, I mean, for gold, if you look at gold's correction, yeah, it was just a short-term correction before it started going higher, and we're about to break all-time highs. However, the impulse wasn't as big as what we see in Bitcoin. It wasn't nearly the same sort of rise, which is why I believe we're going to see multi-trillions of dollars flooding into cryptocurrency, the market cap over the next couple years, which is going to see a sizable correction on the downside. I'm still believing that we'll see, 70-80% correction. Could be wrong, but that's just kind of my own beliefs. What makes you subscribe to your 8-year cycle theory more? Are you leaning more towards this just being an elongated bull run? And if so, how big do you expect the corrections to be? Because they'll see corrections.
So the reason that I'm interested in the 8-year cycle isn't because I don't believe the 4-year cycle is possible. I actually think that both of them hold validity and potential.
Right.
But I personally am not going to take 100% of my profits out or take too much profits out, because I want to be able to essentially just make enough cash off of this cycle to buy the dips that come, whether it's 70%, whether it's 80%. I'm thinking long term no matter what. So even if there's a bullish cycle, and then after the 4-year cycle comes in a couple of years and we drop 80% again, I'm going to be thinking like a buyer through all of that no matter what. But if we continue to go parabolic, I don't want to sell 80% of my holdings off and then watch it do what Amazon did.
Right.
And go up for 4 times longer than the previous cycle, and miss out on all of that. So I'm just finding the balance between the two, because I see the argument for both of them. Before this podcast started, I showed you my chart comparing the previous Bitcoin cycle, the 100K Bitcoin, this one right here, and this would more be in alignment with your okay, there's a corrective wave coming after this move.
Right.
But if it just keeps going parabolic after that, and that little thing just gets, the first cycle just gets smaller and smaller and smaller, I don't want to be so out of the market that...
Right.
So I'm just finding, for me, I'm going to be taking profits for sure especially as we break all-time highs, because it's stupid not to.
Right.
But I'll be taking a balanced amount of profits so that I can buy the dips if they come, or ride the market if it continues.
Right, and I agree, and that's where risk management comes in, and why that's fundamentally either the most important, probably the most important thing, honestly. I don't care what anybody says. You know, if you're somebody that tries to go all in and you mortgage your house and you take out all this debt to buy the dip and then it keeps dipping and then you lose all your money, that's on you, and that's why it's so important that we have risk management. That's why you have a trading plan, so that you can take profits, you can pick which side of the market and your overall trading plan from your analysis, and then you can trade it through. Because I agree 100%, we don't know exactly when the top is. We could see cryptocurrencies never stop uptrending because of the fact so much value floods into this market. And if fiat currencies start crashing all around us, towards the peak time,
it would just S-curve, basically.
Exactly, and that's why I agree. It's very important to keep that in mind. And with Bitcoin, we have such
volatility along the way.
Right.
But S-curve.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why it's very important that right now we don't focus on taking 100% of profits, because we're at a very unique situation in markets where there is failing fiat currencies everywhere. The entire infrastructure of our world today is falling apart. There's corruption, there's all these trust issues, and we're developing trustless systems to basically take and create a second layer of internet over the entire world. Now, the thing about this is the fact that Bitcoin's going to go on these bubbles because fiat is inflationary, it gets printed, whereas Bitcoin, there is inflation, but it decreases over time, becomes more scarce. And so what I foresee happening, or something to consider, is the fact that, we need to start looking at things in terms of scarcity. For me personally, and for you as well, we've always believed that cryptocurrency would overtake fiat, and those would die out at some point. Now, we're at a unique point where we're seeing all of these fiat currencies really showing weakness right now, especially with the hyperinflation of the dollar taking place. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever. And so if we do have one of those S-curve type models, Bitcoin becomes invaluable at that point. And it's no longer, my Bitcoin's worth $1 million. It's now, there's only 21 million Bitcoin and I have 4 of those, or something like that. It becomes invaluable because with crypto, we don't know how valuable this stuff is, because it's all just speculation at this point. I foresee the value being very great. I'm sure that you feel the same way. Even if Bitcoin isn't the currency that we transact every day to buy our groceries, it doesn't have to be, and I don't think it is going to be either. But with that being said, it will be sort of like a value of a stock of the internet, or some sort of digital store of value. And because there is only 21 million of those, when 7.5 billion people are now transacting on the blockchain because they now have the technology able to have a bank account, who knows what the real value of Bitcoin could be at that point. And that's why it is important that you're not selling all of it, you're not getting too shaken up, because it's always the long-term prospect that we focus on. And I think that sometimes my shorter-term prospect with taking profits at the end of 2021 kind of confuses people, because they just assume that you take all profits, but I'm not even going to be doing that for me personally. So you got to prepare for that exact same situation where we could S-curve.
I think it's really awesome the way you have it mapped out, by the way, the 4-year cycles, and it's definitely possible for it to occur. I just wanted to better understand so that, everybody doesn't go 100% out, because 100% in or 100% out is risk.
Right.
Either way.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, would you say that maybe the key here is a balance between the hodl mindset and the let's play these markets a little bit? Because people always try to be like, I'm going to nail the exact top and take 100% of my profits out, which is just based in delusion.
Right.
But also, like, hodl is kind of based in delusion because there's volatility along the way up.
Right. I agree 100%. And, I was actually thinking, we don't hear about hodl too much anymore. And that's the funny thing. I thought about
everybody's
that
traders now.
Yeah, exactly. It's too dang volatile for them anymore. It's funny that you bring that up, because last night I was thinking to myself as I was laying in bed, I was thinking, it's time to bring back the hodl. I'm going to start talking about that way more, because it is based in delusion 100%. The only reason people were yelling HODL so heavily was because, in 2017 it worked. In 2016, 2017, the market never stopped going up. Biggest correction was like 37%.
Which will happen again. It's already started.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where the HODL kind of came out. But the HODL failed in the bear market when everybody started yelling HODL when we crashed from 20K to 6K. But then nobody actually hodled and they panic sold the bottom. So that was the big issue that happened. And so I think that, like you said, there's a balance between the two. It's very important to understand, out of the market completely is too risky for me. Holding everything all in and not taking any profits is even riskier in my opinion to some degree. And so the best thing to do is just to know, when you're investing into the bear cycle, the best thing to do is just scale out. Like, you just have to have a plan, whether that's time frames, whether that's price targets, whatever that might be. It's just important to have a plan because nobody knows when the top is going to be. Nobody knows when the bottom is going to be. It's just a matter of just kind of scaling in and averaging out into that position as the bull cycle goes. I recommend keeping, certain percentage of your portfolio, whether it's altcoins specifically, I hold less than Bitcoin, but always keep something for the long term that you just don't ever forget about, that you hold forever, whatever that trading plan is. And that's really the only way that I think that you can go about trading it in a really profitable way. All that matters is that you're taking those profits and you're getting those realized gains, because you can make a ton of money in the bull run, and if you don't take any of those profits, I've heard stories of guy invested into an ICO early on in 2017, put like $1,000, turned it into a couple $1 million, and he didn't take any profits, and it's now below the ICO price. And so it really just comes into just taking those profits regardless. You know?
Being smart about it.
Letting some hold. But what is your kind of your strategy for taking profits? What's finding the balance look like for you?
So I have my Trezor wallet, which is basically my investments.
Right.
Like, I might spend a little bit of it sometimes on there, or use it because it's a currency, but that's my investments. That's where I literally just put that on there and leave it there, and not worry about it. Yes, I'll still send a little bit here and there, like I said, but what I really like to focus on in like a weekly basis or a trading basis is like my KuCoin or my other accounts that are trading accounts on exchanges.
Right.
And as I make profit on those, I can even add to my investments. I can add onto my investments on my Trezor, but my Trezor's kind of like, this is my money.
Right.
And so that's how I separate my trading account from my investing account and keep myself in an ability. And also I believe in laddering, like you said, which generally for me looks like keeping 20 to 50% in the market always, but laddering out either 3 sell orders of 25, 25, 25 and leaving 25% in, or 2 sell orders of 25%, 25% leaving 50% in. And that's just because of the fact that all cryptocurrencies will replace all fiat currencies.
Right.
And so the entire fiat market's going to go in there, the entire real estate market's going to go in. What we were talking about in the previous podcast. So it makes sense to me to have like a good amount in investing, but still to play the swings. And so that's how I personally balance my portfolio. I've never been perfect at it for sure. I've made stupid mistakes along the way. If I could have held more, I could have sold more, and I can think of different places where I could have done one or the other more. But overall, that's the strategy that works for me. And the more that I practice that, the more that I find confidence in my trading and in my investing, and a balance between the two.
Yep, I agree 100%. And kind of something what you said sparked a thought in my head. So we were talking earlier about diversifying into stocks. So for my personal strategy, and that's why you guys got to understand that this is just my perspective, and this is just his perspective. Everybody has their own beliefs about what's going to happen with crypto, what's going to happen with the stock market. One thing that I would recommend is, taking profits is very important, because you're not going to actually make any of that gain if you don't actually sell any of it.
Realized.
Exactly.
Unrealized and realized gains.
Exactly. And so, a smart opportunity would be, there's more risk involved because you're, taking your gains and putting them into another asset, but taking those gains and moving those gains into precious metals, or taking those gains and moving those into some stocks that are a little bit more stable. Because at that point, you're not risking as much. Say that you invest in some companies that, you hear all the time, too big to fail. You can find a lot of those companies. You can invest into indices and whatnot, and sure, you're not going to get the crypto gains, but you're taking straight profits and putting those into those. And so, in a way, it becomes stable. because it is the stock market. It's more stable than conventional markets. And so you can still take those profits and move them into more things. You can take those profits, move them into just cash in your bank that you can either redeploy into crypto. But I think it's really important to understand that taking those profits, no matter what you do with them, is really going to help out your situation. And we don't know how long this bull cycle is going to last. We don't know what unforeseen events might kind of happen over the course of this cycle that could either A, negatively impact prices, or B, even create more demand for them in the process. And with I think that we're at a very interesting point here where we could see banks start banning crypto and really try to start ushering people away from these, because they're really just starting to suck out the value of the economy from these banks. And we might see this short-term demand happen where, what if we have this issue where banks start making it harder for us to buy crypto, and because of that, the demand gets even stronger because of that. And retail wants to FOMO in, but they can't because it's harder for them to actually buy it. And then, until we get alternatives from crypto exchanges that create decentralized ways or, do something along those lines, we could see a lot more demand taking place. And so it's important to understand these perspectives. It's important to note that you can't perfectly predict the market. And that's why, having that plan for risk management is so important, because if one of these unforeseen events takes place, you're not 100% out of the market, but you're also taking those profits and doing something with that. There's all these variables, and there needs to be a plan in place for how you're actually going to go about trading that when it actually happens. If you're holding long term, there shouldn't be anything in your trading plan to worry about. You should just be focusing on that long-term prospect. However, regardless, it's important to plan ahead for all of these things as far as you can. It's not smart to, plan for all these futuristic things that have never taken place, but at the same time, it's important to understand how you will handle that when it does happen. You make sure you're not panic selling, make sure you're not, exiting the market 100%. So, because it's having a plan in place that's going to allow you to be profitable during those times where there's a lot of uncertainty.
I kind of think that banks are on board with cryptocurrency because they're smart enough to realize that banning cryptocurrency is like putting a fence in the middle of a sidewalk that you can walk around on both sides. Mm-hmm. And so I think banks are smart enough that they're only going to support it. I mean, Zcash, that's JP Morgan.
Mm-hmm. JP Morgan also basically partnered with Coinbase. I don't know if they partnered or what, but Gemini and Coinbase, both the American exchanges, JP Morgan said, and I just read the article the other day, they said that they would allow crypto transactions to be fine, like it's no longer like an issue. Like if you're part of Chase Bank or any of the branches of JP Morgan, you'll be able to buy your crypto from Gemini or Coinbase, no problems.
It makes more sense to me that the banks or the US government or intelligence agencies or somebody with a lot of power and intelligence are literally the creators of this entire thing in the first place.
I believe the NSA created Bitcoin, and that seems crazy to most people, but seems more crazy to believe that there's just some imaginary figure named Satoshi that just, I don't know, there's more of a hidden means there than meets the eye. For me, I'm more skeptical about it. Doesn't mean that I'm investing, because if I don't know who Satoshi is, doesn't mean that I'm just going to invest less, because I'm investing more because of that, actually.
And honestly, if Satoshi is really just a dude that was hanging out on this weird internet forums and stuff, like
that's cool.
Shout out to you, bro. Like,
cool.
You tricked us all. Like, we think that you're the freaking intelligence agencies because you created something so cool.
Yeah.
Like,
seriously, though. I'm skeptical, but I'm all in.
Yeah, so what do you think except the cash in your bank, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think, I think that's important to remember so that people are aware that you aren't like,
honestly, I hold
reckless.
Yeah, I know. I did make that mistake at the new year. Went literally all in, didn't hold any cash, and that made it more stressful when the markets corrected. And so because of that, definitely keeping way more cash on hand just to have, pay the bills, pay whatever else I need. But then just having a little bit of extra cash on the side is always going to make you so happy, because when the market's correct, just putting those out there is just, it's all that matters.
So, Pizzagate and those conspiracies are really big right now, and I really haven't done much research into them at all because I'm really careful and cautious with that kind of stuff. But what you were telling me the other day is that the NSA is supposed to be the good guys. What do you think about that? Do you think that's just complete... And this is off topic from what we were talking about a few minutes ago, but kind of on topic because of intelligence agencies and stuff creating Bitcoin. But, so for the people that don't know, what is Pizzagate?
Honestly, I don't even think we should talk about Pizzagate on here. Cause
you don't think so?
No, we might get delisted or something.
Okay, well, basically the government's doing evil things at the top of, like a standard conspiracy.
Right.
What makes you not want to talk about it at all? Because if we talk about it in the right way...
Because London Real literally is getting his channel deleted for talking about this stuff, and I know that it'll get demonetized, and I personally, with this channel, I don't want any sort of correlation between that at all. It's just not... Even talking about coronavirus made me feel like iffy towards that, so I feel like diving any deeper into that, because I already know that the CEO of YouTube has came out and said that they were going to block any content that talks about anything against the WHO, anything about 5G, and Pizzagate falls right perfectly in line with all that stuff. And that's why I don't want to even...
Okay, so maybe we should wait or consider other things.
I don't have a problem talking about the NSA or anything like that, and I think that that's fine. It's just specific terminology that they can track, that's what scares me. It's yeah, that's just what I don't like, honestly.
So, without using specific terminology, it's basically pedophiles at the top.
Yeah.
Is what is what it's all about.
Yeah, basically.
And so yeah, we should definitely look into that stuff because I want to know exactly what we can talk about safely. Because I feel passionate about these things.
Right.
And I don't engulf myself in them because I don't like to feed the negativity.
If our podcast wasn't uploaded on YouTube, I wouldn't have a problem talking about it as much. It's just the fact that because it's uploaded on YouTube, that also impacts all of my other videos on YouTube, and it's just too much risk for me to want to put it out there.
High risk, low reward. But alright guys, maybe in the future if we figure out how to talk about it, we will. But there's conspiracies and stuff out there. You guys can look it up if you want to. It was kind of off topic anyway, so back to...
It's just one of those things that's just too risky to talk about right now. If there was a this is exactly why, I would love a decentralized option to have for YouTube, because I'm sick of the corruption with censoring information. Very passionate against that. I don't like any of that stuff. It's wrong because it's just creating more opposition between each other, and it's
blocks freedom of speech essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And we're constitutionalists here. That's what we believe in. I believe anything that's aside from the Constitution is corruption created by people in the government to, just control more and have more power. And so with with cryptocurrency, we've got into this stuff because of all of these reasons. All these conspiratorial things that aren't really conspiracy. It's just corruption in the world. It's what brought me to cryptocurrency, and I'd love to see alternative spawning, like London Real. He just posted a video yesterday saying that he got off the phone with some of the execs of YouTube. They're going to delete his channel. That's messed up because all he was doing was interviewing people, and he didn't have anything. He didn't have a super opinionated response. All he was doing was just asking questions. And if it becomes a problem to ask questions, and it becomes a problem to talk about certain things, if you're censoring content, that makes me very skeptical that whatever they're talking about, there's a reason for that. And so with all of this stuff, it's very uncertain, it's very risky, which is why I don't like to dive too much into detail about it. But overall, there's still things we can talk about. We can talk about the NSA, how they've monitored calls. If you guys have ever watched the movie about Edward Snowden, highly recommend that one. And it just shows how deep the corruption actually goes. And we don't have to get into exact details around all the stuff, but you know that it's there, I know that it's there, and I think that for roughly the same reasons, that's what brought you into crypto, wouldn't you say?
It was a big part of it, and also and also financial opportunity,
Right. That's
and technology, how it'll affect us. But yeah, I was definitely, especially when I was younger, like fully immersed in conspiracies.
Right.
And I've kind of realized that like the amount that I do that can definitely affect me in a negative way.
Right.
So there's a balance about it. And I guess one of the reasons I brought it up was just because like if Bitcoin was created by intelligence agencies, and if those conspiracies that you brought up to me earlier are true about them having good intentions even though they are doing bad things, like maybe they're realizing themselves, they have some self-awareness and they're trying to like help in a way.
Right.
And that's why I brought it up.
Right.
And I like to maintain a positive and optimistic perspective on all of this stuff.
I do too. It's important to keep a positive perspective, because that's the thing. If we start believing that we are helpless, that we don't have any power or anything, that's exactly what people in power want, because then they can control you. That's
where like conspiracies can either be empowering or completely negative, and that's where it depends on the conspiracy, because some of them empower you and some of them just make you feel like the world is over and there's no hope.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, a lot of them are fear spreading, like 90% of them.
Yeah.
And they're probably created by the same people that are doing the things that they are claiming are done in the conspiracies.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, the whole reason this got brought up, all this conspiracy stuff, is because I believe that Bitcoin was created by some... I don't know what you call it, I guess shadow government, something along those lines. Powerful people that were very smart that created technology for something. Is Bitcoin positive or is it negative? Who knows? It's all speculation.
It's a tool.
Exactly.
So
it has a lot of positives. I will not ever try to discredit Bitcoin. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in it. It's who are the people that made it? That's the real thing here. And for me personally, I think that it's a group of people. I don't think Satoshi was... I mean, the person writing on the stuff, and, I think that could have been one person, but I believe that overall Bitcoin was a group of people, very advanced people. And the reason why I believe that is because the technology for Bitcoin, SHA-256, that was patented by the NSA. And you can look that up online, and, if I'm wrong, comment below, but that's just from my own research, and just want you guys to understand that. So I believe that, if they created basically the underlying tech, that I believe that they have a bigger play in that. And who knows, maybe Satoshi was just a guy that took all of these things that were great advancements that the government created, and maybe he did create it in his own thing, which is why I'm not closed-minded to the perspective of being wrong with that. I just think that there's something there that isn't talked about a lot for some reason, even though you would think that if I was going to be investing so much money into this project, and that, I don't even know who created it, that seems a little weird. But because what Bitcoin is it doesn't matter who created it as much, and that's why it does so well.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's why I'm so focused on moving forward the community and less focused on like who created it. I'm interested in it, don't get me wrong. I'm very interested in that aspect, and I think it is important. Just like I'm interested in like what's our history as a human species, but also even further than that, like our history is super important so that we can better understand ourselves. But we equally need to worry about what we can do today to make a better future, to make a better day for us right now. And I think that's the same with like cryptocurrency and who created it and all these random questions people have. Like, yes, it's important to know its origin, but it's equally, if not more important, to know what we can do about it today and what we can do about it in the future to make it better.
I think that's a really good point, because it brings up another thing. So it's like, yes, Bitcoin could have been created by evil people. It could also be created by a libertarian savior, for the most part. It's whatever belief you want to jump to. But nonetheless, regardless, if Bitcoin is created by evil people that want power, an alternative will spawn from that, because you can only, suppress people for so long before, just like what we're seeing with Bitcoin, the banking, all the corruption, suppression, debt, all of these negative things. What spawns directly after the financial crisis? Bitcoin does. A hedge against all of that stuff. If Bitcoin turns out to be an issue and it becomes a thing that people don't want to use because they see corruption in it, eventually people will become aware to that, and then there will be an alternative that is created from that. And so that's why it's like what you said, don't focus so much on these things that we either can't change or have no effect on anything regardless. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? Yes, that does matter to some extent, but not nearly to the extent of I can go out today, I can create what I foresee. If I believe that Bitcoin is evil, I could go out today and create a cryptocurrency that I felt followed along with my belief systems, and then if everybody used it, so be it. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to go out there and actually create the alternative that you want to see change, then there's no point in worrying about it, because then you're just creating disharmony within
I think
yourself.
you should make the logo of the coin just a picture of your beautiful blonde face with a smile. You could call it Dono coin.
Hey, there we go.
Or Big D coin.
Big D coin. That's my nickname in my family. So maybe I'll create a crypto and then you guys can buy it as like a novelty token. If it goes up in value, that's cool too.
Yeah, the jack is out of the box, so to revert back to what your original point was, the jack is out of the box, and once the jack is out of the box, that's what John McAfee says all the time. The jack is out of the box. There's no stopping it now. It's gonna take over the world. It's going to 1 million per coin, or I'm gonna eat my.
Yeah.
Not gonna say on this podcast.
Oh man. Yeah. Speaking of which, we got a few more years, or not even a few more years, a few more months.
Before he's doing that.
He already said he wasn't going to on Twitter. I saw
Oh,
that.
nice. Yeah, that's I wasn't really expecting him to. I knew it was just a big front to
Hype.
hype it up
Yeah,
and
old
be
John.
funny. And I think he's a troll 90% of the time where people take him. He's serious 10%, and the 10% he's serious, take it.
Yeah.
Because he's smart. But 90% he's really good at trolling too.
It'd be fun to have him on the podcast.
Yeah, if anybody that is part of the John McAfee team, or if you're watching this yourself, John, hit us up, man. Email, whatever. Hit us up, bro. I've talked with you a little bit, or your wife a little bit via email before. But hit us up, man. I would love to have you on the podcast. We're doing this every single Saturday, posted every single Sunday. We're already getting downloads on iTunes. We're already starting to get a following, so lots of benefit for both of us, and I'd love to have a conversation with you, man. I look up to you in a lot of ways. I think your trolling is amazing, so...
Yeah, I still think back to the time when you pumped my Digibyte bag at the bottom. I was up like 350% when I woke up, and I was happy with that, so shout out to John, the great coin pumper. That's awesome. Yeah, overall I think things are just looking exciting. Whether you subscribe to the conspiratorial aspect or not, it doesn't matter. We're all here getting ready to make a stupid amount of wealth and money, and that's what this whole thing is about, just being able to connect back with you guys, be able to show you ways in which we profit, talk about our overall perspectives, and then just hope to spark some sort of fire within yourself, a little bit of a creative passion to pursue your thoughts and dive deeper into what we talk about, because maybe we talked about some things today with the conspiratorial aspect that you maybe haven't thought about, which creates some sort of passion for you to pursue the answers. And for that's why we do this, is because at the end of the day we might spark that creative passion inside of you, and you guys might go out and do something, and we never know how that might come back and affect everybody. It's just a win-win all the way around, because the more people like you that go out there and create something valuable, that go out and do something purposeful, whether it has an immediate impact on us, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it's rippling through everybody else out in society, and that's what I wanted the most, was be able to connect with you guys, be able to share a perspective, and then be able to give that perspective to you in a way that makes sense, so that you can do the same thing to everybody else around you, because this is just one big ocean of energy, and what you give back what you put into it is what you're going to get back. And if you do the positive things, if you give back positive information and give people some things that they can really use that's valuable, it's amazing what comes back to you tenfold because of that. And so just remember to, whatever information, ask questions, talk to people that you know, because you never know how that's going to just create more of the things that you desire in the world.
And I would add to that if you do go look up the conspiratorial stuff, focus on wholesome content, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Wholesome, focus on that feeling, the vibration, some people might say, and I would say, that is just makes you feel good afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard stories of people looking into certain conspiracies, actually one of my friends, and he literally just threw up afterwards. And that's a sign that you might be absorbing something that isn't necessarily benefiting you in any way.
Exactly. It's good to ask questions, but it's important to understand that how you feel on an emotional level is what matters most. And if you're spending too much time towards looking at things that make you feel low, then just stop doing it. Because unless you can build an alternative to fix those issues that you're looking into, you're only going to create a lower state of consciousness, and you're going to get a lot less of the things that you want. Yes, there's bad things that happen. People have been crazy since the beginning of time, but it's what you focus on that expands, and so you don't want to be focusing on all that crap.
And I have a little personal story to share with you guys. People have always told me my entire life that I'm a sensitive person. And it's actually the greatest compliment I've ever received. And when I was younger, probably about like 5 or 6 years old, I remember one night I was sitting downstairs, and this was back when my family used to actually have TV, where we'd watch like I don't know what it was, cable or something like that. It wasn't satellite. Or maybe it was antenna TV. I think it was antenna TV.
Real old TV.
Yeah, so we'd watch antenna TV, and I was sitting there watching this thing, and at 5 or 6 years old, this horror movie basically started playing, and I don't remember the name of it. You guys could let me know in the comment section below if you know what I'm talking about. There's basically this hotel, and people would come stay at this hotel, but nobody knew that there was secretly this crazy woman that was staying up in this like caged room upstairs in the attic that was like locked up. And she would they had her like locked down, but she'd like scream and stuff, you know. But in the night, the hotel owners didn't know this, but she could get out. Or at least I don't think they knew. She could get out, and she'd go out and she'd like kill people with this knife or like attack them in the middle of the night. And I just remember just feeling like this sinking, my brain was like a little bit curious, but then I just got this sinking feeling, and it just grew and grew and grew. And for months afterwards, I felt depressed. I couldn't sleep at night. I had anxiety attacks. I felt like crap. I had absorbed a frequency, a vibration of information that detrimented me and made me feel like I was weak, made me feel like I couldn't do positive things, and it affected me in a way that left an impression on me for the rest of my entire life. And since then, I've always had a hard time watching horror movies. I never watch them. I think that they are literally they're putting focus, what you said, what you focus on expands. They're putting focus and light on something that is dark. And that, you can't shine your light on something that's dark forever. Like, it's going to absorb what you're shining onto it. And so in order to cultivate that flame, that light within you, focus on positive things. And I personally cannot, people in the comments might be like, oh, you little sensitive little, I'm not going to say the word, but they might say that I'm sensitive and say all these negative things about me, but thank you. I appreciate those comments because I am. And I focus on what makes me be able to maintain positivity, maintain clarity, maintain joy on a regular basis every single day.
Yep, exactly. Just don't focus on all the crazy stuff. I know how I went crazy looking into conspiracies. I already know how much that can cloud your vision. And, that's why I'm so thankful for crypto, is because, I had all of these deep thoughts inside of my head. I had this passion to want to look for truth or look for something that I felt was worthwhile. And, focusing on conspiracies and trying to find the truth, and then just learning that, just starting to believe that everything's just lies and all of this stuff, it's just going to cloud your judgment. Focusing on crypto for me has given me a creative outlet that I can pursue, I can focus my time and energy towards, and it's benefiting everybody in the process. It benefits everybody that watches the channel, benefits me and my profitability, and then on top of that, it makes me just feel, secure. It makes me feel like a sense of purpose, because I have something that I'm focusing on. And so with all of this stuff in the world, with all the fear, it's really easy to get shoved into these lower states where, everything's scary, you have anxiety, you're worried about all these different things, you're focused on, past experiences that have negatively impacted you. You're focusing on all of these external events, but rather not. All you need to do is just focus back within yourself and realize that you create your own happiness. What you focus on expands, and that's why it's important to focus on the things that matter to you. jumping into conspiracies, jumping into anything that's just more negative, it's just going to create more of a dissonance to the things that you want in life. And so why wouldn't you just focus on only the things that you want? Focus on the things that make you feel happy, because it's your happiness that ultimately is the end goal here. Because it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter how nice your car is or how much money you have. If you're happy within yourself, all of those things come to you. And if you're not, then none of that's even going to make a difference in how you feel. So just something to consider with all of what's happening inside of the world today.
And I would add to that like there's also like kind of like positive conspiracies in a way. Like I think like whether it's true or not, like I really enjoy and think like it's cool when I like watch Joe Rogan and Bob Lazar on a podcast together, and they're talking about like this crazy UFO technology that like we don't have access to yet, and all this stuff. Like whether it's real or not doesn't matter. Like that's just fun and leaves me feeling like kind of
thought-provoking.
Yeah, thought-provoking, exciting, creative, almost like a creative expanse, whether it's true or not. And so like there is stuff that is wholesome that's still in that genre for sure.
I agree. And with conspiracy, I hate using that word because I think it's just like a negative connotation, because I think that conspiracy itself is just more of asking questions. And yes, you could dive into some crazy stuff and you could start thinking that the earth is flat, or you could just research into, okay, who the heck is Satoshi Nakamoto? At the end of the day, it's really just you asking questions and you pursuing the questions that you have and looking for answers, because it's me asking questions that got me into cryptocurrency. It's me asking questions that gave me ideas on how to run a business. It's all of these things. It's not so much just about conspiracies, but by looking into different things that might not seem very correlated right now, you might start to understand and start asking questions that are going to lead you to the end goal of what you're actually seeking within yourself. And so that's something to pay attention for, is just like ask questions, pursue the truth, or pursue answers to those questions, and from there you start to build up kind of this mental vocabulary of new ideas and new experiences or whatever, new theories, and then you can take those and you can really start to just create something with that. You can create a business, you can create a YouTube channel. There's so many different ideas out there, and so it's just really important to keep that perspective of ask those questions, look into the answers, and you're going to be able to find the truth for yourself in the process.
And I think that there's a balance with asking questions so that you remain curious, you remain learning, and having faith so that you don't get stuck in the trap of just infinitely asking a million questions to where you don't know yourself anymore.
Yeah, exactly. You also don't want to just accept everything as truth either. You have to be able to filter through everything, and that's why life is just this great experience of nobody knows what the heck's going on. We might think that we have an idea of what's going on, but in actuality we don't, and it's just a matter of us going out there and finding the truth for yourself. And a lot of my personal truths are probably some weird thing that I have no idea about, but that's just how everybody is, and that's why it's so important that you just take things with a grain of salt. Don't take life too seriously. Don't focus so much on being right or wrong, because at the end of the day, we're all right and we're all wrong. There's really no in between. And so that's just some basic understanding of how I go about, my everyday life for the most part, because it's easy to get hung up on those sort of things.
And another thing to remember when you're having conversations with people is that language itself is faulty by nature. It's like a compression. I think Elon Musk said, language is like taking analog information and compressing it into digital ones and zeros. Like that's literally, because every single word, everybody has their own experiences with that word, first of all. And second of all, every word by definition is a bunch of other words that are defined that tell you what that word means. So it's all just like, it's all so variable in nature and isn't so like clear and concise and black and white. It's like a million shades of gray in between the black and white, and that's what language is. And so, let go of stuff. Like if somebody says something like, and you don't necessarily agree with it, don't hold on to that. Like yes, have a willingness to share your perspective and to listen to their perspective and to maintain seeking to understand and seeking to be understood, but like let go of stuff. Understand that language itself isn't pure in nature, and that all truth is said in silence.
Agreed. Yeah, seriously though, I think that was a really important aspect to actually consider. I think that, people are they get really easily attached to different things and different perspectives, and because of that, it makes having normal conversation with people impossible because they're too focused on being right, like what they know is the only truth that exists. And so for that, when they go to having a conversation, if anybody ever says anything that's in a disagreement, they clench up and they don't even want to hear what the other person has to say. They just want to, explain why they're right and why the other person is wrong. And because of that, there's never any understanding that comes. There's never an agreement. It's always just, two people are bickering about why each other is right and why the other one's wrong. When in actuality, like I said just prior, everybody's right and everybody's wrong. And if we focused on, more coming to that understanding, that agreement, and accepting what the other person says, giving feedback on, whatever it was they said, and then being able to bounce those ideas back and forth, because in the process of doing that, you'll be able to learn so much about yourself, you'll be able to learn new perspectives that you didn't normally consider, and, having all of those combined is a great way to have new ideas to research into other topics. And so it's just ultimately learning, ultimately not looking to be right or wrong, but coming to agreements. And for that, you're going to be able to unlock a part of yourself, and you're going to be able to unlock a part of others that is just going to, create more passion, more creative energy, and really more awareness in the whole process.
And we're not perfect at this, you guys. Like, I can think of just the other day, I was having a conversation with my older brother Benjamin. Shout out, he's got a YouTube channel, Heart Beast, you can look him up. And I was having this conversation with him, and I was like, just listening to him, and he started telling me about his back problems, and that when he was working out, when he was benching, like, he would get back problems. And like, I kind of, what you said about clenching up, I kind of clenched up, and I sleep on the floor. Yeah, I know. I have all this crypto in my bank, and I sleep on in my wallet, and I sleep on the floor, you guys. But I get the best sleep on the floor. I feel like it's the best on my back. My lower back pain was cured. So I have like this identity around I'm a floor sleeper. And like, so Benjamin starts telling me about his back pain and how he was working out and he'd get back pain when he worked out. And I was like, I kind of like jumped up and tried to like tell him that it was because he wasn't sleeping on the floor and all of this stuff really quickly, and felt that tension that I needed to be right inside of me a little bit. And then I kind of breathed and like let it go and like was able to move the conversation further. And actually when I let go and released that need to be right, he then expressed to me that he had stopped doing benching and started yoga, which is really freaking cool. And that when he stopped benching, his back problem had went away. So it's not even that he had the problem right there. I wanted to help him so bad. I wanted to help him with his problem so bad that I literally like tried to be so right and thought that he was wrong, that he should be sleeping on the floor, instead of like letting go and like seeking to even understand on a deeper level whether he even had the problem in the first place or not. And he had figured his own way, his own solution out. And so, I think long term, I still believe long term, mattresses can have an effect of putting this certain tension on your spine, which can lead to back problems, which is why like Japan and places where they sleep on mats, they have the lowest rate of back problems. But he found his own solution to it, and just like letting your ego go, having a willingness to let go. If you feel that tension, that need to be right within you, like dial back. Fight for what you know to be true, but force is different than power. Empowerment is different than force, and work from a place of empowerment as much as you possibly humanly can.
Yeah, a good way to know is if somebody is only in the thought process of being right. That person will never ask any questions because they don't care to understand your perspective. They only care about why their perspective is right. And so if you're having a conversation with somebody and you're talking about something, it's really important that you hear that other person asking questions, and you as well, most importantly. You ask questions, that shows you start the conversation right there. You draw the point. You say, if you're the person that is asking the questions, you genuinely care what the other person has to say, and in turn, you'll get that back. And sometimes you won't, and at that point you already know that this person doesn't care to anything I have to say, and then you move on. But, when you ask those questions, you're going to be able to find things out. You're not going to create that, the dissonance between you and the other person, because, like Dallin said, if you jump in there and you have to be focusing on why you're right, you're not asking any questions in the process because you don't really care what is happening. You're only wanting to get your point across. And so a good way to tell is if that person's asking questions to you, and a good way to, start that is by you first asking questions. If you don't get it back, that's just the end of it. You move on. But, if you ask the questions and that person asks back, you're going to have a really good, positive conversation that's flowing because of that.
Yep, I agree. Well, we're about 65 minutes into this one, so I think we'll call it a podcast. Crypto's looking amazing, you guys. Buying the dip. I've been buying the dip. Donovan's been buying the dip. Been watching all your signals and your VIP. Good stuff, man. Really good stuff. Check out his VIP. Check out my VIP in the description of both of our videos, whether you're watching Donovan's channel or whether you're watching on my channel. And, really accelerate your learning with all the stuff that we've been learning over the past 5 years and our experiences and the courses that you bought, Bob Lucas's, all the stuff that we bought a lot of courses in our day, and bought books and read through stuff and lots of experience first and foremost, which was the most important thing for us. So we've consolidated all that stuff, and we know what it's like to not understand or know what it's like to not feel like you know what you're doing or have the confidence in the market. So that's what the VIP really is all about. And so make sure that you guys check that out. Hit that like button for us. Share this with your friends. You can listen to this, like we said, on official podcast apps like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and you'll be able to listen to this while you're at work or anywhere like that. So we look forward to seeing you guys next week. And as always, stay profitable out there.